thinking about running a recovery and wellness franchise. There was nothing, there was no dream growing up to do something like this. There was no thought about doing anything like this. It was through Laura's health that this happened. Like when you've got stress at home, how it impacts like work life or vice versa. Obviously your mind and your stress and your well-being impacts your performance. It's just madness right from the beginning. We had a washing machine and a dryer with max capacity. This is 7 days back-to-back floats. We could do 126 floats and we had 120 bookings in the first week. I really think that you've got to learn to be comfortable building the plane as you're learning to fly. Oh, this is a nice wee setup, hey?
O Studio. Tell me, what is O Studio?
Just like the best place in the world.
Not wrong, eh? Mate, if you're ever there,
Yeah.
You're traveling so much at the moment. I was talking to someone before you came in there, and I was like, how does he look so good? How does he a 10 out of 10 when he's constantly working? How's everything so together with your like energy levels when you come in? You're always engaged, you're always on. And then he was just like, oh, he uses his studio. He's doing floats. He's getting massages.
Yeah.
So, oh yeah, his job's not that hard, is it?
Yeah. It's definitely like just like anything. I think the harder you push, the more you've got to offset it with something. And, you know what I mean? The more that you've got to get that balance, that recovery and wellness sort of side of it. For some people, it's just getting out and strolling through a golf course. You know what I mean? But regularly doing something that really, like that whole activating the opposite of the stress response, it's that parasympathetic nervous system. Finding a way to do that regularly so your body's not in that constant state of stress, you just perform better, I reckon. You know, you perform better in whatever that it is that you want to do. Like, if I don't do it, I'm shorter with Laura. I'm more snappy with the girls. I know my output at work is nowhere near as good. So I guess through rugby, you become hyper vigilant of the way you're performing, you know, the way that you're actually operating, the way that you feel, the way that you're thinking. And so for me, it's a no-brainer. I have to put it first, yeah.
You have to put your body and your well-being first.
Yeah, and I know it sounds selfish, but I have to even put it above my family. You know, like, because my family is the most important thing in the world to me. My girls are the most important thing in the world to me. But if they don't have like a healthy dad who is engaged with them, who wants to listen to, wants to be with them, is like got energy and is healthy and is a good role model, then how's that good for them? You know what I mean? So really, I think you've got to put your own health and wellness at the top of the chain, you know, so that you can perform and be a good person. I really do. And it's sort of counterintuitive, I think, to dads, and you'll know this. Like, how can you put yourself ahead of your daughter, you know?
Yeah, but it makes sense the way you put it. Matty Lovell, I spoke to him before bringing you on the show, and he said to ask you where your work ethic comes from, because he has never met anyone that works harder.
I think it's probably a double-edged sword. You know what I mean? If someone's saying he's got a huge work ethic, he works a lot, that can mean two things. And I think it does mean two things all the time. It's a good thing and it's a bad thing, I reckon. You know, if you're constantly on, that can't be great, you know, in some ways as well. But yeah, coming from someone like Matty, like, I just respect him so much. You know, there's a reason he's my business partner. You know, he's just fantastic at what he does. But where does my work ethic come from? It probably comes from real insecurity, I guess. I think it is. And I think back to what drove me in sport and what drives me in business. It's probably just never feeling like anything's good enough. You know, and when you've got that, and that's genuine. Like, I always feel like there's just so much more that we could do. Always feel like we're not succeeding. That's what it genuinely feels like to me. And so I don't try and work hard. It just feels like there's more to do, and this can be better, and I just love it. So I'll just keep on pushing it. Yeah.
That is wild to hear you say that, because I look at O Studio and look at the success that you guys have had in the last 12 months since we've known each other, really. I think you had one O Studio when I first met you, and I was like, oh, this is cool.
Yeah.
I never expected this to go the way that it's gone for you guys. Now you're going into Australia, and you know, you've got how many O Studios have you got?
Yeah, well, this time last year we had 2 open.
Right.
And we've just opened the 9th. And so we've opened 7 this year.
Wild.
And so exactly as you said, like, and we talked about it yesterday in the airport. It's like, far out. We've opened 7 this year. No wonder it's felt full on, So, we're at 9 open and there's another 4 opening in the next sort of 6 months.
What's success going to look like for you then? If this isn't success?
Oh, yeah, once again, Matty, he's a genius. We talked about this for a long time. I don't think it's ever going to feel like we've got there. I don't think it will ever feel good. It sounds so silly to say because I love it and we're doing some really cool stuff. But he said to me yesterday, he was like, I really hope you can enjoy next year because next year is going to be really full on. Lots of studios opening, but also moving up into Australia with the brand up there. And so it's going to be huge. And the way we talked about it was like, there's always going to be some arsehole email in your inbox, something that's just on your nerves that you've got to figure out. There's always going to be some problem that you're going to have to fix and solve at every level. And so unless you're choosing to see the good that exists there and then, we're never going to feel satisfied. So I suppose I'm speaking to myself right now when I'm saying this, but as naff as it sounds, you have to learn to enjoy each part of the process because I don't think I'll ever feel like I've arrived. Yeah.
How are you doing that? How are you going to make sure that you do enjoy the process? Like enjoy, the journey.
I think it's the people that you have around you. Like Matty's really good for me like that. My wife is really good for me like that.
Why is Matty so good for you?
Because he constantly questions me on it, He'll see the emails that come through at 1 a.m. or,
And you're responding?
Well, yeah, usually me sending them out,
Oh, you're sending out 1 a.m. emails?
Oh, well, I'll work.
You need to work on yourself, mate.
I need some wellness. But like there's the weeks that I'll work well over 100 hours. There is weeks
no way.
like that. Yeah.
What is that? What? I don't even know how 100 hours fits into a week.
Yeah. Yeah. What's if you're working a lot of hours every day, that very quickly mounts up. Seriously, yeah, there's definitely.
Is that impacting home life at all? Like
that's only when I'm away.
Right.
Like if I'm away from home, and that's the danger of being away from home. Actually, is I'll just go. Like it'll be from 5 in the morning. If I'm in Australia, I'll be working at 5 in the morning until probably 8, and then I'll take an hour to do a little bit of training, 45 minutes to do something good for myself. And then it will just be all day again until 10 o'clock at night. And I'll just do that every day. It's fun work. It's stuff that's engaging and like exciting. So I actually love it. I don't feel like I'm working, but it is. I'm actually just working the whole time,
You are going to take over the world.
Yeah,
I swear,
you're right.
Like, I swear.
But that's as I said, having good people. So when I'm not around Laura, she makes me switch off. Like when I get home from work at say 6, I'll be off until 9 o'clock. I'm just with the girls and Laura, and we're hanging out and we're doing stuff. If they go to bed,
was there a point where Laura pulled you up and said, "No more of this. Like you can't be working while you're at home after 6 o'clock"?
If you were in my house yesterday, we would have heard a conversation very similar. No, yeah, that's been easy for me. Like, I don't want to work around. I'm never going to be like the person that the girls look over at and they're wanting to go outside and do something and dad's working again. I've never been that person. It's really when I'm not with my family, it's just I will go. And so, but honestly, for me right now, I'm in a different stage than yourself, where you've got little ones who really need you and want to be around you. And we were talking before the podcast, just like cuddling and like the little small things that you've just got to be.
Yeah, my
present.
biggest fear in life is when Matilda doesn't want to cuddle me anymore.
Yeah,
that's my daughter, not my wife. My wife already doesn't want to cuddle me.
My wife has never wanted to cuddle me. So, I was great when they're little, and through those years, I was really present, and I was quite lucky with rugby.
Yeah,
and there was times in Japan where there was 5 months off. I'd be having 5 months off a year. My training was from 4 in the afternoon till say 7 at night. That was like our team training. I'd have the whole day with the family. So I was really present as a dad all the way through their childhood. They're now 19 and 17. They're living their own lives, driving, working, sport. I've got a real opportunity to work now, if that makes sense. I see this next 10 years for me as like a real window of time. I'm just going to swing for the fences on this. And so I'm all in. Like, once again, but I look at Maddie, he's got, 3 young kids that he's got to be really present for. It's just a different dynamic. I can work twice as many hours as he can without thinking about it because I've got twice as much time.
We've talked about Laura a couple of times. She's come up. O Studio for you. Am I right in saying, like, because I feel like there's a little bit of a love story here that forced you into creating O Studio? Is it?
Yeah, definitely.
Am I on the right track?
Yeah.
Can we talk about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess where this, because if I was to rewind back, like thinking about running a recovery and wellness franchise, there was nothing. There was no dream growing up to do something like this. There was no thought about doing anything like this. It was through Laura's health that this happened. So without rambling on too much,
ramble on. Give it honestly. Like, this is really important because I mean, you go on a lot of podcasts, and I feel like this part of your story is the thing is the bit that needs to be told because it's so important to what's come after. Your whole life has evolved because of your wife, and this whole story. So I think, like, as much detail as you want to go into on this, like, it's
well, feel free to cut as much out as you want. But no, it's first time I saw Laura, we're 13 years old, down south and into provincials, and I saw her running, and I was just like, that's the person I want to be with, genuinely.
No
shit.
And you were 13?
13. And I was living on the West Coast, she was living in Christchurch.
You were a coaster, so you thought, I got no chance.
I somehow tracked down her phone number, her home phone number. I don't know how I got it. And then I prank called her.
What did you say?
I was just like rang up. I was like, shit, I can't talk to her, and hung up. And so I did that. And then I did that like three or four times, probably over the course. I had a picture of like the whole team as well, this athletics team, and she was on the photo. And so I'd always see, I was like, that just is the person I want to be with. It just was. I loved her immediately. I don't know why. 3 years later, I moved to Christchurch, came to Christchurch Boys High School. And one of the first things I did was, does anyone know who Laura Ash is? And someone's like, oh yeah, she lives down on Maddie Street. She lived 100 metres down the road from me.
So then you started knocking on the door and running away?
Well, what I found out subsequently is, like, Laura had the same thing going on, and she heard that I'd moved to Christchurch, and she was like walking around the block trying to find where I lived. So we were both sort of like, we just had this weird thing, and we got together when we were 15, and we've been together ever since.
No way!
Yeah.
15.
Yeah.
I did not expect this part of the story. Like, this is great.
But it's, yeah, exactly. And so we were just we just loved each other, and we obviously did things quite differently. We had kids young, we had kids at 19. We had Shiloh at 19. Yeah. My first year out of school,
You had kids at 19.
Yeah. I mean, my first year out of school, I was studying law full time. We had Shiloh, and I was in the Crusaders, and it was just like all go. We moved in together. My life was like pretty hectic right from early. And it's like when you have kids, your perspective changes on everything. I think perspective is the big one. I love rugby, and I still love rugby, but all of a sudden, like, Shiloh was the most important thing in the world to me. Looking after Laura and Shiloh was like my thing, and so I was conscious of making sure I got my life off the field right, just in case they figured out that actually Tim's no good at rugby and we should get this guy out of here, that I'd have something set up ready to go. So 4 years into my career, we went overseas, and I came back to Wellington, and Laura went overseas for 1 season and then came back. And lots of things that is happening in Laura's world. Like, Laura was a great hockey player and played nationally, would win cross countries, like really physically good at things. And she went from that to like couldn't walk 200 meters, like lost her vision, lost use of one of her arms, like a whole heap of symptoms were like creeping in over the course of 6 months, a year. We should have this massive whack, and then she'd only get a little bit of function back. Then she'd have a massive whack of something new, and she'd get a little bit of function back. So she lost her vision to about 30%, got glasses, and then within a few months her vision was sort of back to being okay again. Anyway, lots of stuff was going on. They diagnosed her with multiple sclerosis. I just remember that moment, just like, fuck.
Where were you? What was the situation?
We were sitting in this, in a neurologist's office, and the picture, what it feels like thinking about it now is that I just felt so small. Like we were just sitting there, and this person was just telling us that it's a chronic illness, you will have it forever, and this is the way things go with people with multiple sclerosis. You'll end up in a wheelchair, you'll lose your cognitive function. It was just like a punch, massive punches in the face. There was part of us that were like happy that there was a name to it. There was something that we could work on now.
You understood what was happening.
Yeah, it was like, okay, this is an actual thing that people have, and this is what it looks like. Laura went on a heap of drugs. Our girls were 4 and 2, 5 and 3 or something at the time. I was in Wellington playing with the Hurricanes, so we didn't have much family support around us up in Wellington. And it was just a nightmare of a couple of years, really. Just, Laura would just be exhausted all the time and have all this crazy stuff going on in her body and stuff. And so I just vividly remember like days and days of, we'd go to bed at night, I'd wake up in the morning, get the girls off to school, get everything sort of, lunches and stuff. Laura would help out where she could. I'd go off to training and she'd go back to bed, and I'd come home and she would have slept all day, and because she's still exhausted, I'd pick the girls up, we'd do dinner. It was just like, and then I'm back into training. I'm trying to perform, trying to be a rugby player at the same time. So it was really hard on Laura, like way harder on Laura than me and way harder on Laura than the girls, but it was also really impacting my rugby as well. Like if you overlay Laura's health with my rugby, it's like a mirror of one another. When her health was pretty good, my performances were all right, and when her health was not great, my performances were no good either.
It makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, you get it. Like when you've got stress at home, how it impacts like work life or vice versa.
Well, it's a lot of work being a parent, right?
Exactly.
And then you chuck in what Laura's going through, and then all of a sudden it's not 50-50 anymore. It can't be.
No, and it was a real frustration for me that I couldn't perform. I couldn't put that in a box at home and get to rugby and perform. I'm like, I'm not thinking about Laura on the rugby field. So why is my performance all over the show? Like I was the same strength, same speed, same fitness. I put in the same effort, all that stuff. But so why am I why am I teetering on performance all the time? So that was a real eye opener. Okay, obviously your mind and your stress and your well-being impacts your performance. And so that was sort of the catalyst into these things I can do here to start working on this stuff to get my mind right. Worked with a fantastic guy in Wellington, a psychologist, around confidence and being present, all those types of things. We went to Singapore. Laura got a stem cell transplant, which is a brutal procedure. Effectively, they blast her with high dose chemotherapy to kill your immune system, and then they re-enter stem cells to grow a new immune system from scratch. And hopefully the new immune system didn't have that same defect that MS has. But it was a risky procedure. They wouldn't do it in New Zealand for MS. And a lady actually passed away in Singapore getting the same transplant a week after us. So it was full on. She was in hospital for a long time, in isolation for a long time. And then when she came out, they recommended flotation therapy to us as like a way to sort of manage the stress that was going on in our worlds. And that was our first sort of step into like wellness. Yeah.
And the flotation therapy, you went in and you tried it, and did it work for Laura, or was it? Did it work? Did you get better at rugby?
Well, my first float, I still remember it. It was called Palmer Float Club in Singapore. They took us in. She went into her room. I went into my room. Well, they took us for an intro first, and you go into your own rooms. And I just had the best experience ever. I fell asleep, and I had this vivid dream. I was back at my family home on the West Coast, and I was walking around outside, and everything was just so vivid. But it was one of those ones that I sort of knew that I was dreaming. And I had never experienced anything like that before. Anyway, the music came back on at the end and sort of obviously woke me up. And I was just like, what the hell? I've just been transported somewhere. That's what it felt like. So I couldn't wait to see Laura in reception and yarn with her about it. And she'd had like the opposite experience. She got like salt in her eyes, didn't know which button was which. So she didn't even push the start button for the music because she's naked in her pod and she didn't want them to come in. And so I got her back 3 days later. And it was like, she was like, oh, that's actually really good. Like, I feel like I got quite a bit of energy from that. And then we did one more about 4 days later, and she was like, we have to have one of these at home. So I was going to buy one for the house initially. And then she was like, we could do a business. And I was like, oh, really? I know how this stuff normally works. Laura will have a good idea, and then I'll have to pick it all up. And so, long story short, she was like, no, we're doing this. We're definitely doing this. And so I retired from rugby, came back to Christchurch because we needed to be around family. I was 28 and I was playing. I felt like my performance was like in a good spot. You know, you're 28, you're sort of in your prime really, I reckon. But I didn't have a contract offer in Christchurch. They had Sonny Bill Williams, who's some average midfielder, you know.
Yeah.
And Crotts. And they just had, like, they were stacked in there.
Yeah, they were stacked.
And so I had opportunities with the Hurricanes, the Blues, the Chiefs and the Highlanders, but I had to be in Christchurch. So I retired, started Cloud9 Float Club, and it was just madness right from the beginning. And we set everything up. We had a washing machine and a dryer with max capacity. This is 7 days back-to-back floats. We could do 126 floats, and we had 120 bookings in the first week. Yeah.
In your first week of business?
First week, yeah. And I'd bought 15 towels in a washing machine and dryer, and I thought we could like manage the towels. So it was just like a crash in business operations and systems and hiring and all that sort of stuff. And what it showed us, I guess, is our story wasn't unique. Our story of like, actually everyone's got some challenges. Where do you go to sort of step away from that for a bit to be looked after? These are lots of people that have lots of things going on, whether it be just, you know, not low level, whether it just be like managing the stresses that everyone experiences in life, or some serious health concerns, or relationship problems or work problems. But everyone's got something going on in their worlds, and we, I suppose, were a place that they could step away to just be well looked after for a bit. And so it was a really successful launch. Razor came in for a float 6 months in and offered me a contract to re-sign with the Crusaders.
Oh, go on.
I remember seeing his name on the bookings, and I saw his name, and I was like, shit, Razor's coming in. This is 2016. You know, and so I had heard about what was going on with him, like looking at the Crusaders role, and I was like, shivers, he's coming in for a float. You know, got down, did about 30 press ups, you know, like sort of swung the arms around. And he said to me, you know, are you still playing? I was like, yeah. I hadn't touched the ball in 12 months. And he was like, I'd love to have you back. I've just re-signed with the Crusaders. I was like, take me back. So I ended up re-signing with the Crusaders. A week later, Colin Cooper rang and said, I'd love to have you in the Māori All Blacks. I've heard that you've re-signed with the Crusaders.
Heard you've been playing lots of rugby.
Yeah, he said you have to have played a game in New Zealand this year so that we can select you. All club rugby had finished, and all my Bunnings Cup and stuff had all wound up. Yeah. And he said there's 2 games that you could play. One's for Tasman B against Wellington B, or one's for Northland B versus Auckland B. And so I got on a plane, flew up to Tasman and played for Tasman B against Wellington B in Porirua. And then 5 days later, I was like playing at Munster against Munster. It was crazy. And I just remember.
At Thomond Park?
Yeah.
Against Munster?
Yeah.
5 days later?
Yeah. It was crazy. And that was Anthony Foley had just passed away.
That game?
That game, yeah.
Oh.
And we did like a little wee presentation.
You put the jersey down with the AEF before the haka.
Yeah.
That was really cool.
Yeah. Yeah, that
still like does the rounds on social media. It pops up in my reels all the time.
Yeah, well,
it's such a special.
It wasn't 5 days
moment.
later. It was 2. It would have been a couple of weeks later. But where that came from,
5 hours later. 5 hours later, you were.
But like where that came, because it was it was myself, Luke Crawford, and Ash Dixon that sort of came up with the idea around doing something special for him, and it's just one of those moments of like, because it was Ash, myself, Matt Proctor, and Ash Dixon that sort of walked out with a jersey and put the jersey down, and then his family after the game and stuff, and it was really, really special. It was a really special moment. But I just remember standing on the field, and it was average weather, and it was just I was just so grateful to be back playing. You know, it was just one of those moments that I sort of jumped out of myself for a second and thought like, shit, this this last few years has just been absolute craziness, and I thought rugby was finished, and now I'm back doing this. I just felt so lucky. And so my next 5 years of playing, it was just I had a completely different mindset to the game. Just real appreciation for where you are. And I think athletes really struggle with that. They sort of don't really understand how lucky they are to be there. It's not until you lose it and you have something really significant happen, I think that makes you feel really appreciative again. Yeah.
So now going back to Oshio, where you are now, like you grew the business from your one float that ended up getting fully booked on its first week, and now how many years later
that's 10 years.
10 years. They say it takes 10 years to build a business.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
And what advice would you give someone like me, for example? I've just done 1 year, Red 9 Studios. I haven't had a fully booked week yet. but hey, the washing machine and the towels are there waiting.
Yeah.
What advice would you give someone in their first 2 years of business that could be of use?
Well, I reckon, firstly, I think the key is this sounds so obvious, but it's the product. It's like what is the business that you've got? What is it that you're selling? Like, is the product as good as it possibly can be? You know what I mean? Because you can work as hard as you want. You can read all the right books and have all the right systems and processes around it. But ultimately, if you haven't got the right product, it's always going to be really hard to sell. And it's always going to be really hard for people to engage with and interact with. And so I think getting really good at understanding your product and how it helps solve a need in the market somewhere, and so even looking at this, like, this is a great product. I do. I'm not just saying that. I think what you've got, mate. I do. I think there's a need in the market for good storytelling and for the ability for people to tap into this type of resource. So I'd say get really clear on your product first, and then it's really quickly you've got to have the balls or the confidence to just take a step forward and then another 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 one, and just back yourself to figure it out. Because I just think what I see lots of people do is wait. They wait on an idea, or they're trying to perfect something before they go. I really think that you've got to learn to be comfortable building the plane as you're learning to fly. I do think that, because you're just never going to be in a position. You could go into a business degree for 4 years and you'll still be feeling like you're out of your depth. And so I think the confidence is take step forwards and then having really good people around you along the way is the core of it. I reckon get the product right, be confident, take a step forward, and have good people around you. Yeah,
that's good advice. That's really good advice. So now looking at O Studios, has there been a step you've taken forward that's ever been like really costly, that's you've looked back and gone, probably shouldn't have done that?
Hugely, yeah. And it's the product. Like, I don't think we had the product right at the beginning. And
you were booking out for weeks. Like, what was wrong with the product?
It's so Cloud9 Float Club, very simple. 4 float pods in rooms, and so you're having 2 floats go each hour effectively. And so you can do 140 floats in a week or whatever it is. And we might have 100, something like that, or somewhere around there. Actually, 170 floats in a week, and we might have around 100 to 120. So we might run at about 60% occupancy. It means that the business is doing well. That's pretty simple. What I wanted to create, though, was something a little bit broader than Cloud9, have more service offerings because not everyone loves floating, but everyone wants something in wellness and recovery. There's something there for everyone. And so I wanted to build out what looked like. So it was saunas, it was ice baths, it was floats included, it was recovery, it was Pilates, it was yoga, it was meditation. So we set up Christchurch as almost like a pilot to test out what would work and what doesn't work. So when we first opened, we had 1 sauna and ice bathroom, and no one booked it. And then about 6 months in, it started to sort of pick up, and then all of a sudden it became really popular. We only had 1 sauna and ice bathroom. You can't really make a good return on that. So we had a big recovery space that we didn't need all this space in. So I built another private sauna and ice bathroom, shrunk the size of the recovery space. And so for the last 6 years in Christchurch, I've been changing the location to suit what the demand was.
That's really good to hear because, I feel like that with my studio.
Yeah.
With Red 9, it's like sometimes I'm like, okay, this is my idea. I'm going to put a set in. So, for example, I've got the good, the bad, and the rugby set and throw in another room, but it's a permanent set. It looks cool as fuck. But it's like,
it's epic.
Yeah, but I can't rent that space out to anyone else.
No.
And so there's like bits like that where you're like, okay, well, I've spent money creating a really good set, but maybe I could have made it a little bit more versatile or spent money somewhere else. And but this is the thing, like in my first year, that you're learning these things, and you kind of to learn them, you have to kind of do them.
You have to, and so that's what I'm getting around the product. So what does the product look like? Like, how are you maximizing the revenue per square meter in your facility that you're taking? Like, what does that actually mean with O Studio? What does that actually mean with Red 9? What is the dollar? What's a really dollar productive product? And so a massive eye opener for us was we'd seen the communal sauna and ice bathing sort of happening overseas, and we're like, oh, we should try this. We had no space, so I pulled out the staff room and put in a communal sauna in there and put 2 ice baths in each changing room. So an ice bath in the male and an ice bath in the female. And then I built like this tiny, weird little staff room that staff were really that happy about for a start. And then all of a sudden that's our most popular service. And so
and
I'm
it
like,
wasn't even the thing at the start.
Yeah, it wasn't the thing at all. And so we're like, okay, there's a real thing here on this communal. But then, so ultimately, we've found out what the O Studio product is. Big communal spaces, lots of private spaces, because some people will never want to be in a communal setting. What's our pricing structure? What do you need? How do you price your model? That's all, for me, all part of the product. Like, what is the right pricing structure? Because we could have this fantastic, facility, have the wrong pricing structure. You're never going to sell as much. So the only way I was going to learn, like, what is the right optimal layouts, what is the right membership structure, what's the right pricing structure, what's the right sales structure, how do you market these things effectively, is through just testing. And so we had 6 years of like wins and losses, I'd say, 6 years of just like pain and learning.
Was there a moment where you went from the red to the black? Are you in the black and red now? Like, was there a moment that?
Yeah. Like we've always had enough fat in the system to cover it off, but to generate like a really profitable, because what I want with all O Studios is for the investment to return in 3 years. So if someone buys an O Studio and they set everything up, like, if it costs you $1 million or $700,000 or $600,000, like, how quickly can I return you that $600,000? How quickly can I return you that $1 million? And it's got to be 3 year. It's got to be a 3 year window. And so, what's the model that generates that return, and what do you need to do to make sure that you get those sorts of numbers coming through? Yeah, as I mentioned, there's always been enough fat in the system, but you can see where you need to place money and where you need to build your facilities to make sure you get that quickly.
Mate, thanks for coming on.
Yeah.
This has been a great chat.
Yeah, mate.
Mate, we've had business and we've had a love story. Mate, what else could you ask for on a podcast? Legend, thank you very much.
Good man. Love your work.
Where can people find out more about O Studio?
So if you're in Australia, ostudio.com.au. If you're in New Zealand, ostudio.co.nz. But yeah, on all socials.